So as Galactic Cooperative, we are a worker-owned cooperative. There are different types of cooperatives. So I'm only speaking from the point of view of a worker-owned cooperative. And it's for us about doing business differently. Our main branch of the cooperative is Galactic Scientific. Galactic Scientific started as a sole trader, and as it grew bigger, we were looking for the means of changing the business structure so that it was non-hierarchical and continuing to be a vehicle of change to provide solutions for our customers that are sustainable. The cooperative model became apparent to us that would be the way for us to go. It really gelled with us. It meant that we could really centre on that equitable side of business. All cooperatives run by 7 principles. Here are the 7 principles. Number 1 being voluntary and open membership. 2, democratic member control. 3, members' economic participation. Autonomy and independence is number 4. We engage in education, training and information giving. It's number 5. We cooperate amongst other cooperatives for number 6. And number 7 is concern for community. These are 7 principles of all cooperatives around the world. Some cooperatives may highlight more, some of them more than others. We try to engage with all 7 equally. Galactic Cooperative has 5 core values: authenticity, to communicate and act in truth; sustainability, innovating to meet the needs of our people, community and planet; connection, to engage with our community, demonstrating investment and care; inspiration, leading the way and doing the impossible better; and growth, courageously develop our business, but also ourselves.
And is it fair to say, Kate, too, that we developed those values together as a group, and that was a really important step for us as a team and as a cooperative, that we actually develop these values together, like any other company maybe.
Yeah, and I think, look, some companies may strive to do that within their business structure. I just feel that cooperatives, it's just a given. That's what you do. It is a group of people coming together, and they really need to work on these values before they can even go further.
Yeah, and we work through all of those values in everything we do.
Yeah, it was exhausting.
It was exhausting, but valuable.
Yeah, that's all good. So it was important for us to be a vehicle of change within the business world. We wanted to democratise the workplace. We wanted to share the risks and the rewards, and we wanted that to move us forward, to be part of a solution. So this is what makes us part of the new economy. That's how we see it, is that worker-owned cooperatives can be a major part of doing business better.
Kate, there's just one question that I think would be a good one to answer now. Mariana has asked, how many are you or were you at the start?
From the start, we had to have 5 directors. We chose to be called governing fellows. So there were 5 governing fellows that started Galactic Cooperative. We also had employees.
And the 5, Kate, is a requirement of all cooperatives, isn't it?
No, I don't think it is of all cooperatives. I'm a little bit confused with that particular part. I'm not actually sure if it's...
Yeah, I can't remember that either.
Is it just worker-owned cooperatives, or is it cooperatives across the board? It's something you would have to find out from someone, depending on your style of cooperative. Now in WA, a really good resource is WA Co-ops, which is the person there is Peter Wells at WA Co-ops. There is a federal group that is just starting, which I'm a member of, called Workaround Co-ops Australia, and we're busy trying to put a conference together ourselves. And there's also BCCM, so that's the Business Council for Cooperatives and Mutuals. They are another very big resource. There are actually quite a lot of resources over east. I could go on. There are quite a few more worker-owned cooperatives in WA. Galactic is the only worker-owned cooperative.
I think it's also part of being achieving quorum. Stacey's just suggested that, and I think that's probably right, isn't it?
Yeah. So we've actually lost, so our governing fellows, there are 5. To be a governing fellow means you have to be a member, which means that you are employed by the cooperative. You can be an employee of the cooperative and just stay an employee. That's one way of looking at it. Ideally, after working with us for a period of time, you then become a member, and then through our governance structure, if you wish to nominate to be on the board of management, then you're able to, because as a member you can nominate to be a governing fellow. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so.
So under our cooperative umbrella structure, we have Galactic Scientific, which I briefly talked about, but then the main role of Galactic Scientific is for repair and service of scientific equipment. So we're in laboratories right through WA. That is universities, pathology, geochem labs. Yeah, wherever there's a laboratory, very often we pop up. Okay, and that stems back to our strong ethos of the right to repair and to have happy customers. So we work closely with our customers to try and work out the best solution for them. Another part of our cooperative is the workplace wellbeing. This is something that came about because we started winning awards for our healthy workplace recognition. In the corporate world, employee wellbeing is unfortunately too often an afterthought and completely subordinate to profit. So it's really amazing to work for Galactic Cooperative, because we hold it so highly, that the well-being of our workers. So it just links in to our values. So we were honoured that we workplace wellbeing program that we developed internally got awards. We got the 2020 Gold Health Workplace Recognition, 2019 Best Workplace Health and Wellbeing Initiative at the WA Health and Safety Excellence Awards. Oh, and we had the Silver Awards was 2018, and then became the Gold one in 2020. Due to the publicity around these awards, we received increasing numbers of people asking us, how are we doing that? So we were happy to share that. And Stephanie Black is one of our members, and she's the one who put all of this together. So she's been using us as guinea pigs for a while. And as you can see from her research, workplace wellbeing is not only the ethically right thing to do for members and employees, but it also improves the bottom line, as shown by the following examples. So healthy employees are nearly 3 times as productive as unhealthy employees. Unhealthy employees take up to 9 times more sick leave than healthy employees. So there's all these things that we try to back up empirically and share with other workplaces. That means that we can improve workers' well-being. That's a quick little look at the methodology that we use for our workplace well-being. It's a bit more involved than just like saying, yes, you've all got to do yoga classes. It looks at organisational wellbeing policy, the physical work environment. It looks at the best practice health, lifestyle behaviours, and of course, mental and physical health and wellbeing factors. We try to bring all of that in. In doing that, it's about targeting what the issues are and addressing those. This is some quick points on how we do it. Just a very, very quick rundown. So, things like doing surveys, and we do collaborative workshops. I think it's really important to point out that the surveys and workshops are all about trying to target exactly what the workplace needs and addressing that, and then moving on from that. So through the surveys and workshops, also keeping an eye on how did the priority targets, if we come up with a list of priority targets, how are they being addressed? Is it working? So we develop objectives and measures so that we make sure that everything is being backed up. And brainstorming strategies, design and detailed action plans, and the annual follow-up to reevaluate and improve. And it works really well because we can show the examples of that over several years we're able to pinpoint those issues. We can address them, and we can keep a lid on it. We can make sure that it keeps developing. People understand.
It helps us build really good culture too, I think. Yeah. Because we're all invested in that.
Yes, yeah, and I think that's important in any workplace, that is sustained.
Yeah.
So yeah, that our workplace wellbeing directly directly feeds into the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and we found that quite fascinating, which will lead into Kate Ringvold talking about our sustainability side of Galactic Cooperative.
There's a couple of questions, Kate, that maybe we could answer just on the last 2 slides.
Oh yeah.
Lucy's asked, how have your members and employee numbers changed over time? And then Stacey's asked, how many people in the business?
Okay, there are 9 people in the business. 4 of those are governing fellows. Another 1 is a member, and the rest are employees at the moment. The employees are mostly casual, 1 part-time person, and how many is that? 4, 5? Yeah, and 3 casuals.
Yeah.
Over time, now we've just celebrated our 4th AGM, so we are young as far as the business goes. We have fluctuated over that time. We did start with 5 governing fellows, then we've, unfortunately, people have to go separate ways for whatever reason. So we've fluctuated over those years with people coming in full time. Some people, we used to have, part of the business was Galactic ICT, but the person who headed that up wanted to move on to do other things. So we then had to talk about how do we do that? How do we split apart?
We've had a couple of interns as well, haven't we?
Yes, we're very open to having engineering interns and work experience. We've had a few year 10 work experience students come through as well.
Stacey's also asking, did they receive education in order to be able to participate in collaboration, etc.? What model did you use? That's a great question.
Yeah, look, we still need to work on our governance.
Yeah.
But in saying that, and I don't really, there's a few things we are still looking to grow around for our governance, but how we have worked things is when someone has been employed for around 6 months, they get a whole rundown on what a cooperative is, how cooperatives started, like back in England in 1820 something. We run down what it means to be part of this cooperative, and that there are a lot of other cooperatives as well. One of them, which is not a cooperative, it's a mutual, but things like RAC and HBF, they are, they're huge. People see them around themselves all the time, but don't realise that they actually are sort of affiliated with the similar sort of style of business. CBH is a really big one here in WA, so that's Cooperative Bulk Handling. They're a farmer cooperative, so they buy the wheat off of the farmers, which means that they have a larger amount of wheat that they can then sell on. They get a good price for their wheat because they can pool it all together. We have many smaller co-ops through the country that are retail, so they're a retail co-op. It just means that it's like a loyalty program. It means that you get cheaper groceries because you're part of the store. That works really well in a lot of our country stores. Although when you look at cooperatives in places like England, there are so many, and they are just, the city supermarket is the co-op, and everyone is very used to seeing co-ops in England, in Europe, and in America as well. There's the co-op movement there is quite huge. And we're trying to do that in Australia as well. So.
Slowly. Sorry, I did interrupt your conversation.
That's okay. That was very. I tried to make. I just us sort of leading into the UN Sustainable Development Goals. I found that really fascinating on so many levels, that just choosing to be a cooperative business just fits into so many of those different goals. So maybe Kate, you could talk about a little bit about that, and then move on to just the sustainability side.
Yeah, can do. Yeah, so obviously the sustainability, the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs that I normally call them, they've been around for a few years and have a sort of a nominal deadline for 2030. And the idea is obviously that every business, every organisation, and even as an individual, that we start to really recognise what those 17 goals are and what our impact is across those particular goals. And we've clearly also delineated some really important, some of the more important goals for us. And I'm really also, you know, like Kate, really pleased that we are starting to talk about this more, both in our organisation and every other organisation. So moving on from that, one of the things that we wanted to do was expand beyond what we were doing with Galactic Scientific and really try and harness the needs that we saw out in the community. And obviously workplace wellbeing was really uppermost in our minds, because not only were we gaining some awards, but we were clearly seeing out in our community that people really wanted a better experience in their workplace. And that's really one of the reasons why we started the cooperative, because we wanted a more positive work experience. And so having been in the field for nearly 30 years, I really wanted to have a service that we can bring to our customers and our future customers around sustainability. And you know, most of what organisations would like to do, they don't have to do it, unless you know, the big organisations have to do a certain amount because they have to report to some of the government legislative and regulatory requirements. But there's a whole bunch of organisations, us in particular, that don't have to meet any kind of standard or requirement, but really want to step up and say, we're doing something, we're part of the solution, we're not part of the problem. And so one of the things that's been really kind of toying in my mind is we need to be able to provide a service for all sorts of organisations, whether they have you know, an explicit goal for sustainability or whether they don't. It doesn't really matter, but they might have staff or maybe investors that are keen for them to step up and really be part of the solution. So one of the things that I've been working on is this concept I'm calling a virtual sustainability officer. And really it just means, you know, having someone on call who can provide advice on a range of subjects, you know, whether it's you want to put in a green office program at work, you want to manage the waste at work that's currently not, it's all probably going to landfill unless you've specified something in particular. And really also providing some of that training and education and advice on all the things that you can do within a small to medium organisation to reduce your resource use. And we're really moving much more into providing that kind of service to mostly small to medium organisations who, you know, wouldn't have the capacity or the money to actually have someone there doing that themselves. But, you know, they can call us and rely on us to actually provide some of that support. And that could be a day rate, that could be hourly, or, you know, on call in a kind of a retainer sort of model. And so we're looking to expand out to that at the moment. We're in the process of testing that idea with the customers that we've got already. And so really a lot of that will probably, next slide please, Kate. A lot of that will really work around what I'm calling the basics, implementation 101 for sustainability, you know, developing policies that drive the organisation and gives everyone something to aim for. And then really moving into what is that strategy to implement that and how do we do that every year, and using action plans to really get everyone from the bottom up to the top down involved and engaged. In a way that meets the needs of that organisation. Next slide, please, Kate. So I think clearly we're here for a reason, and I'm speaking to the converted, but we obviously have a problem and it's real despite some of the rhetoric we hear every day. And I guess what we're really keen to do and what we're passionate about is to create a new economy that really involves all of us. And whether that's, you know, my preference is obviously for a circular economy, but, you know, whatever we call it, however it looks, that we're all involved, that we're all equal, and that we all have ability to be able to access all of those opportunities that everyone can. And I'm really looking forward to what we develop together. So that's it from me. Thanks.
Okay, questions?
Hello, I have a question. Oh, do I write them down? Do you want me to put them in the chat, or can I talk?
No, please, just talk. Go for it.
Hi, everybody. I was having technical problems earlier, so I was trying to just connect in. I've been all morning having crap Zoom apps not working. But so it's so interesting. I live in Margaret River, Wooditch country, and I do loads of community work down here. And I recently met Saul, who's also a member, but I can see he's not here today. Saul Cresswell, who's the Shire's Economic Sustainability Officer down here. And we are getting together and having lots of NENA, as I call us, NENA conversations, and hopefully start a NENA Margaret River Wooditch NENA hub. So, but I have been keen to get together with him and find a like-minded group of people to do exactly what you Galactic guys do, really, but down here. What's happening in our town is no different to happening anywhere else in the town. Retail spaces are, dying, and they're empty because they're totally unsustainable at all different levels. And I would love to go around and get and start changing the way that local businesses here operate. So there's a big movement. Saul's totally probably initiated it. Locavore, localism. And I was just wanting to say that I would be so interested in running being a personal sustainability assistant to businesses down here who I know want to do the right thing. Of course they do, but don't know how, and it's hard, obviously. Even the local news agents that get their paper from China or their pens from China, how do you make their structures more circular in every way? So yeah, I would just love to know more. Get you guys down here. Let's meet up with Saul. Let's get some Margaret River stuff happening. Be great.
Kate's locked out at the moment because she's not allowed in WA. But
yeah, I'm there in spirit.
But yes, I'm sure Kate would love to have conversations with you via phone
Definitely.
or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to be down in Albany for a wedding in November, so maybe we can.
Yeah, come down, Kate. Come and stay. I have room at my house as well if you haven't got anywhere to stay.
That's excellent. Thank you very much, Charity.
No, I'll try not to be jealous.
We can move freely in WA, can't we?
We can in ACT as well, but we just can't go anywhere else.
Yeah. Do you have all of your slides and your, if you like, your I suppose consultancy? I can't think of a better word.
Yeah,
is it in a sort of folder? Do you go around with people and go, look, this is what we can do? Ding, 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 ding. Let us do it with you.
Yeah, we're putting that together now, but effectively that's what we will be doing, whether it's in person or virtually. And eventually, so at the moment we're really just testing with the customers that we have what do they think they need, but clearly there's a whole bunch of other customers that we don't currently have that have a need for this service. And so a lot of what we will need to will be some of that basic marketing around just telling people that we exist and that we have a service that they probably would like.
Yeah, and maybe there's a way where, working remotely with you guys, you've got all the IP, it's all your stuff. But if there's somebody on the ground, like me or Saul, who are on guidance and vision, we're basically just your physical presence of what your work is, and we're kind of carrying your work to them, and then you can do some remote backup and remote support, but we can be a sort of physical face, to that, and to guide it through. But I can find I can find willing people who would sign up,
Great.
For we could do maybe one sort of pilot project and then use that to then platform you know, and launch the success of that with all the other, you know, businesses here. Because in a small town, that sort of stuff really can go fast. You know, once people are aware that there's a particular business in town that's doing really well on this, then it, you know, it's a small, people talk, and it's just word of mouth.
That's right.
And then you can really start to, you know, and then I'm sure the Shire could fundraise or get some grants for you to actually get then obviously paid to then continue to do that work locally.
Charity, would you put your would you share your email maybe address on the chat?
Absolutely.
And then Kate can maybe send you an email with some info in it, and then you can have a further conversation.
Yeah,
it'd be great.
Sounds good.
Kate Ringwald, she has had a lot to do with local governments in the past, so she could certainly help you, Charity, with the local government sort of side of things.
Can do. There was another question I think Joni had. What was it? Okay. Can you tell us more about your decision-making processes? When do you vote, and when do you delegate decision-making powers? And there was also one around, are you aware of worker-owned cooperatives emerging in hospitality or any other sectors which have been hard hit by COVID?
I would love to help. I would love to help anybody who wants to create a worker-owned cooperative, especially in the hospitality sort of side of things. Why not?
I haven't heard of any myself.
They do exist. So there's quite a few in America. There's breweries and coffee shops that run as co-ops.
Here in the ACT, there's the medical, they're called the National Health Co-op. So they're just a bunch of clinics, doctors' clinics that have joined together.
And there's also in the aged care, there's a few worker-owned co-ops, and in Australia anyway. The only ones that are in hospitality that I can think of at the moment are all like in, not in Australia. I'm not sure how they're faring through COVID. I don't know, but there's a lot of movies around co-ops.
Docos.
Documentaries. I can certainly try and find a list somewhere.
Kate, do you have any experience of co-ops in vineyards, wineries?
Yeah, why not? Why not?
I know someone who's just starting his Biggest Little Farm. You know, Biggest Little Farm.
Excellent.
The film. He's doing it. He's got wine and, you know, huge vineyard down here and loads of space, and everyone's getting really excited.
Everybody should watch that movie.
They should. It should be in education. It should be in the secondary schools, compulsory.
But then you've got, you know, what's the other movie?
One recently.
Quite recently.
2040.
Yeah. He covers co-ops a little bit. Then you've got The New Economy, which was a movie that covers cooperatives. Tomorrow, which is a French movie documentary that has got cooperatives in it too. There's also, I mean, if you look up, there's a pile of them in America. So I suppose it's just a matter of Googling, you know, co-ops, and there's little documentaries.
We've got a list of questions we have to get to, Kate.
Okay, great.
Okay, can you tell us more about the decision-making process?
Oh yes, the decision-making process. Okay.
When do you vote, and when do you delegate decision-making power?
So we have our management meetings every 10 weeks. And at those meetings, anything that needs to have a group decision on that's when we do it. Because we're still very small, that's easy enough to do. As we grow, we certainly see ourselves we still need to have our management group, but then we could also see smaller groups coming under that, which would feed into the management.
On different topics and stuff,
And then, of course, at our AGM, which I would hope we would keep our AGM pretty succinct and small, any major decisions that need to happen around it would always be up to the members. So we may in time need people to come back to all the members with the pros and cons about making that decision, but then it would still be, it's one member, one vote. So everybody gets a say in where they want that decision to go. We are presently looking at looking more into sociocracy, possibly using that as our governance. We've got, like I said before, we've got more information we need to find out, and I'm very interested in, I want that democratic decision making to be a daily activity. It's something that we're always involved in, and it's quite simple at the moment because there's not many of us.
And it's easy.
My issue is that as we get bigger, we really need more structure in place to make sure that we are always making sure that we hear everybody's voice.
And I guess that's the good thing about the cooperative as a worker-owned cooperative is that we all recognise that this is a growing thing, and it's a kind of living document in a way, that we are constantly updating, and we're talking about it, and we all have an opinion, and we all get to share that. And I find that's probably one of the most rewarding things about it.
And I think one of the main reasons a cooperative model was sought was because we wanted to avoid that hierarchy, that it just came down to one or very few people making all the decisions and making all the money. So in saying that, sometimes I'm supposing maybe down the track, we might need somebody who just goes, no, this is it. We've got to do this.
We might have to.
but hopefully that will be done with consultation and still having, people still need to have a voice. You take that away, and I think that's so disempowering. And that's not what we're about.
And Lucy's had a really good question. She said, you mentioned that establishing your values together was exhausting at times. What parts of being involved in the co-op have been exhausting too? On the flip side, what about being involved in the co-op have you found enlivening? Great questions.
I must say, I've actually recently discovered that apparently I'm not very good with
So true.
No, apparently I need to work on my relationships, like outside of my personal relationships. I'm like, really? Okay, so to take that on, I know that I'm not very good at, if there's controversy or
conflict,
nobody really wants to talk about the conflict, and I certainly need a bit more help around that, especially because I'm CEO of Galactic Co-operative, and I do a lot of the HR side of things as well, so I need some help. And as we've had people come and go from the cooperative, I think sometimes we probably could have handled some things better, but what has been amazing is that even though we may not have done it the best way, we've learned so much and really stepped up. So every time we've brought someone on or lost someone, set them free, we've gained. We have stepped up another level, and we remember what happened, and we look at it and we adjust ourselves, and I think that's really amazing. I don't think
I agree.
I don't think a lot of businesses do that.
The development of our values was exhausting, I think, mostly because it really required, there were so many people, but also that it really required us to individually really think about what are our values and what do we hold high in that, kind of thinking, and then what do we want in our workplace, and what do we want in an organisation that we want to be part of, and so it's exhausting because it really challenged us to be real and honest about what we hold to be valuable, and so it's kind of that, it's exhausting, but it's good exhausting. And I'd say, I'd agree with Kate that the HR stuff is hard, and and the finances, you know, we're all stepping up into roles that none of us have really had before, and responsibility that none of us have really had before. And so it's really challenging us to really step out of our comfort zones, which is not a bad thing, but it does mean that, you know, sometimes we just have to be really honest about, yeah, look, this is not an area that I'm really great with. But I think, like Kate said, it has provided us with this amazing opportunity to learn and to grow in our own skill sets. Another question: when a governing fellow wishes to leave the co-op, how is this handled? With some sadness.
Yeah, sure, okay.
Yeah.
So to become a member, there is you buy a share. The share is worth $4,000. That $4,000 is generally paid $2,000 cash, which can be paid upfront or over time. That is sort of worked out on one-on-one sort of individual basis. We work out what works best for everybody. And the other $2,000 is sweat equity. So sweat equity is the voluntary hours that you put in to being involved with the co-op. That can look a lot of different ways as well. So it's just a matter of keeping tabs of the hours that you do. There is a monetary value put on per hour of your voluntary hours, just like there is a monetary value put on your work, regardless. That's what you get paid. So yeah. So when somebody leaves, first of all, it needs to be unanimous that someone has become a member. So once it's unanimous that you've become a member, then if you do get voted on to be a governing fellow, that's unanimous as well. You become a governing fellow. If you then wish to leave, that's fine. We say thank you, and we work out a schedule of payments so that you get your $4,000 back. You sell your share back to the cooperative.
I think, and that answers Joni's other question. Mariana had another question. I've been learning a bit about Spiral and how they operate. I don't know them. I would love to hear about your financial practices and experiences. I think we probably answered that one.
So, one of our governing fellows is Adam, and he's an accountant. He's been with us for the whole journey, and he has certainly had a huge learning curve because accountants aren't taught about cooperatives. You know, there's sole traders, there's companies, there's partnerships, and then you've got like the not-for-profit sort of side of things, and like cooperatives just don't. If they do get talked about, but it's very brief and it's not well known. So Adam certainly had his work cut out for him, and now, of course, he's an expert. But
yes,
happy to give you his details if you would like to talk to Adam. Adam Binks is his name. Adam Binks. It's not. We're still a. So we're Galactic Co-operative WA Limited. So we're still a limited company. We still come under that corporate law. We still have to, we fill out an annual return. Our finances, when we receive JobKeeper, we have people that are part-time, we have people that are full-time, we have people that are casual. It's very similar. There's not, as far as that sort of nuts and bolts of how the business,
it's pretty much the same.
Pretty much the same. What makes the cooperative so different is that decision-making structure and the non-hierarchical structure. Yeah.
I guess.
Specifically, I suppose a Workaround Cooperative. I just want to put that in, that because I'm speaking from a Workaround Cooperative. Yeah. Yes.
I was just going to say, I guess, would also be really useful if you could share how remuneration and, like how do you get paid individually? What is the agreement that you have in place in terms of your fees or,
Yeah. Okay, so we bill out usually hourly. We use Xero as our accounting software. within Xero, that sort of takes care of anybody taking leave. It does our payroll. Payroll is every fortnight.
Pretty much the same as any other organisation. Yeah.
I'm still, as CEO, I'm still waiting for my, $400,000 wage. Apparently CEOs get like 400 or more. I don't know where that comes in, but I'm waiting. And most cooperatives work with a small disparity. I think this is the right terminology. A small disparity between like someone who has just started with the co-op doesn't get that much less than the person who's been there for the whole time. Like we try and make the wages reasonable and not too unattainable. So no, I probably won't get my 400,000. Well,
or the Ferrari.
Everybody does. Like, the whole co-op, if we can all earn 400,000 per year. Whew.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Yeah.
We all thought, Kate, that you were in it for the money. We thought you'd done this for the money.
No. One of the best books that I read was The Happiness Advantage. Sean Accor, I think, was the author. And something that he talks about in his book is so how much money makes you happy? And someone who's getting 400,000 a year is not necessarily happier than the person who's getting 40,000 a year. So it's, what's the money, what's it paying for? You need obviously to have your bills paid. You need a roof over your head. There are obviously certain things that make life more comfortable. But coming up with that actual magical figure of how much somebody needs, mine's actually quite low, but it's a very interesting thing to have discussions around.
Could I ask a couple of questions around the subject still? So this collective is based in New Zealand, and they apparently have experienced or experimented with having what they call livelihood pots, where people put their money back. So I think they said up to 12 people would form a little pot and then put their salaries in there and then decide based on their needs, how that money will be shared. I also heard of other groups that basically they take some part of the salaries and then the other part will go into a pot. And I just wondered if you have practices that are unconventional, like that you have.
So, we're a distributing co-op. So eventually when we do have profits, we can then decide how we're going to distribute those profits, and whether they stay within the co-op or get given to our members is entirely up to us to decide. We're not there yet. So, we
are making profit, but just not a lot of profit.
And it goes back, at this stage, it goes back into the business because that's where it obviously needs to go. We've only recently become slightly profitable.
It's a work in progress.
Yes, it's a work in progress. Now, there is a cooperative model that I would love to get involved in, and that is that other cooperatives decide to put a pool of money in to another cooperative, and that becomes like it becomes like a friendly society, where the co-ops that who have put the money in decide who gets the money. It's like a way of granting and funding within the co-ops that are involved. They can give the money to a co-op and say, that's for you to go and develop whatever. And there's a way of taking turns. That one of the difficulties around getting funding has been banks and other people who give out money do not understand what on earth a co-op is. So, you know, you write up all of your paperwork and send it in, and the first question they come back to you is, can you please tell us what a cooperative is? So then you've got to tell them about that. And I feel, I mean, we have done extremely well in being able to self-fund a lot of what we've done. And mostly that's been around because we've hit walls, because no, we're not a not-for-profit. No, we're not a social enterprise. No, we're not a company. And it's just education that needs to be out there. And people seeing that it's not a risk to give the money to a cooperative. So there are banks in England that only give money to cooperatives, and their default rate is like almost zero.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, there's a lot of research and information out there around how, generally speaking, co-ops are one of the, you know, longest lived. They have what do you call it? Tenaciousness. I don't know. It's like, you know, they stay. Co-ops and family business are long-lived. Companies are not long-lived. They might phoenix, or they might change in some way and look like they're long-lived, but not like co-ops and family businesses. Anyway, I don't know what the time is. We're going over time.
We're
Al,
right on. We're right
Al,
on
you
time.
need to rein us in.
Adam and I were quietly chatting in the background there, saying, you know, do we stop her while she's on a roll?
No.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.